I want you to listen to the names of your original ancestors. And they mainly were female. And most sacrifices are done with plants. Not all are done with blood. These are the ancestors. This is on my bucket list whenever this virus is over with. Is to go to Yoruba and to go to Mecca and try to go over to Jerusalem. He's going to name all of the gods and goddesses. And I'm so glad he did this.
My family name is Wunsu, which in my language means born in the voodoo shrine. I grew up in the epicenter of voodoo rituals and belief. It was embedded in every step we took. But like many young Africans then and now, I opted to worship technology, to give up my nature for the world of bright and shiny things. And I was sent to church, where our voodoo was ashamed.
It's a beautiful thing to know what part of Africa your original ancestor
Would fill the void left by the church, with the stereotypical vignettes of witchcraft, evil spirit, and sorcery. Eventually, my fate will bring me to heaven, where superheroes, movie stars, and their faithful followers all flow together in a fabulous grand parade. But in this land of fantasy, the story of voodoo would never faithfully be told. I would have to go back to my motherland to tell that story.
Motherland.
Creation where voodoo all began. Yes, I think it's time we start telling our story from the African perspective. Free from outside shame and eternal denial. This is the story we Africans need to tell ourselves. Long ago, all humans were African, living in relative peace and tranquility. Peace in Africa, it's like the moon. It stays not for long. The sun always drives it away. Now, two sons born from the same womb had a very bitter conflict. So bitter that the gods were forced to intervene. Maulisa, the supreme being, the decider of fate, already knew that these two brothers were going to lead two different races.
We're going to come back to that. Maulisa, Mona Lisa.
Then Maulisa commended Hevioso, the god of
Hiviso,
to strike down upon the earth where these two brothers were standing and divided in two. Then Maulisa invoked Mamiwata, the goddess of the ocean, to use
Maiwata.
to cast away the wrong.
Is so connected to India.
Brother was sent far away to a land of bitter cold.
That is the story of Cain and Abel.
Centuries later, the descendants of the brother who was cast away returned to these African shores. And from that day on, voodoo, our way of life, and all things African have been in trouble. With machines, weapons, and technology, the colonial empire gave itself the power to tell whatever story it chose. With this power in hand, it drowned out all other stories we told of our origins.
Ils ont la technique et ils ont la force qui leur a permis de se déplacer à travers l'océan et faire de nous ce qu'ils veulent. Mais ça là, ils ne comprendront jamais.
Their ships circled the earth, imparting strange and foreign mythologies. When the church told the story, it condemned anyone who did not follow their allegory, and voodoo became the devil incarnate.
Voodoo has been demonized by Christianity. They were saying that it was a religion that is coming from the devil. The devil is religion. It's a stereotype, and it doesn't look at the culture as a whole.
When Hollywood told the story, we were bathed in images of exotica. Voodoo was projected as an enticing mix of sorcery and evil.
You know, out of the films and movies that I've watched, it's always been like a witch using dolls or pins or...
See the indoctrination of the European.
Don't like.
You know, people sacrificing chickens and poking voodoo dolls with needles.
Maybe if we went back to our natural,
Spells and that kind of thing.
Torture the dog.
we would realize that we're the superior.
You think evil, you think satanic.
The lady that they go to cast the evil spell on the ex-boyfriend or whatever, you know?
In reality, voodoo is an ancient operating system like many others. A system based on nature.
Il y a dans l'IFA des entités qui vous disent vous voulez vous occuper de vous et vous oubliez ce que nous sommes, que nous sommes là.
We forgot who we were and what we were.
The knowledge of the winds.
Even though you living here in America, it's still in your blood.
Their story was silenced. Africa also suffered the crush of colonialism.
And there's a part of us that knows that we don't belong here.
Its nature is a lie. Its heartbeat in sync with the natural world. How did this beautifully integrated system become so unraveled? To answer this question, I would have to journey to my homeland, Benin, the wellspring of voodoo, to explore how the way of life for my people have been altered by an anguished history.
This is the port of no return.
No return. Once you got to that
Because
port,
once the slaves get here,
you were
sure
taken.
they are leaving the continent of Africa. Can you imagine the fear of those people? Those who came from the interior of the country, who have never seen the sea before, and this water in front of you boiling. Can you see how they'll feel? The waves, they thought it was boiling water. If you try to put yourself back into that time, while you look, no, you will scream.
The selling, the trading, the beating, being taken from different tribes, not understanding one another. Now we're going to go back to Mona Lisa. The painting Mona Lisa, who was drawn by Da Vinci. No one can ever explain Mona Lisa. Never explain why she has that smirk on her face. And when they did an x-ray of the picture, there was a picture within a picture. And at the time, the Catholic Church and the Jesuits tried to kill every astronomer, anyone that was studying the universe, anyone whose eyes were open to the truth. All of our history is being held in Rome. It is not being released to us. And now that we've entered into a new era, a new way of life, I believe that those books are going to be open and that our truth is going to come out. But for now, the Roman Catholic Church holds everything. From our artifacts, to our writings, to the Dead Sea Scrolls, and man has written what we now call the Bible and wrote it in a way to control. But there were many, many artists and scientists that if they were found to be practicing astronomy, they were immediately put to death. So I have a friend that wants to track and try to find what country in Africa did her ancestors descend from. And we're kind of butting heads because I'm thinking you have to start here and then work your way back. On my father's side, some kind of way they ended up in Yazoo, Mississippi. But they had to get the Yazoo from Africa in some way. And remember that we were not looked at as humans, we were looked at as property. They even had insurance on slaves. And property had to be documented. But we're the only people that have to pay to find out exactly where our original ancestor came from. I know many of you all in the beef sector don't care. You look at yourselves as African Americans. If you lived in South America, you would be an African South American. It just all depended on where that boat landed. And I think our youth are feeling and their spirits that this is not our home. This is not the way we're supposed to live, eat. That maybe their spirits are yearning to go back to where they originated from. But if you read the Da Vinci Code or you saw the movie, it all centered around the Catholic Church. It's centered around a lot of Da Vinci's work, his paintings, the secrets that he hid in his paintings because he was an astronomer. Even in the Sistine Chapel, there are messages all in that art. But the Catholic religion will not release any of that information. There was a nun who, as a child, her, a young boy, and another young girl were walking, and they saw the presence of Mary. And she told them everything that would happen to this earth. And they met with her on 2 occasions. And everything was documented and given to the Catholic Church. In 1967, they were supposed to open up the documentation and release the information to the masses. The other 2 ended up dying in childhood, but one survived, became a nun, and she was promised by the bishop that all would be revealed to the masses, and they didn't do it. The one that was very close to doing it was poison. If you start looking at all the bishops in the Catholic Church, you will find one that was poisoned to death. And I noticed that more and more are using tarot cards and reading tarot cards because our spirits are pushing us back. It's not something to play with. You take it as serious as you do your religion that you practice now, which was forced upon your ancestors, forced upon your grandparents, forced upon your parents, and forced upon you. As a child, you don't have the right to say, I don't want to go to church. You're made to go. You don't have a choice at what denomination. That's made for you. You don't have a choice if you want to be baptized. That's made for you. And he's right. The sacrifices that are done in Africa are the same sacrifices that we do here. For Thanksgiving, we take turkeys and we use them as a sacrifice to celebrate Thanksgiving. It's all in the packaging of how they package the food. So if you think that you're not sacrificing, you are. And we're dying at such young ages because those are foods we were not meant to eat. Remember the names of those. It replicates exactly what the black Indians did. They took peyote to take their spirit out of the worldly so they could connect with the universe. And in Africa, they have herbs that they mix together. And over a 3-day period, you go into the spirit. And more Europeans are making trips over to Africa so they can connect to the spirit. So before you leave this place called the United States, where your forefathers landed, and they pushed that indoctrination upon you, if you can't afford to go to Africa, try to learn as much as you can about who you are, about how superior our minds are, about how we made math, the abacus, taught the Greeks about hygiene, taught them math, taught them how to use a ruler, how to be surveyors. They came to Africa to learn from the African, which leads us to the original Jews, who were the Most High's favorite. For those of you all that do reviews on Greenleaf, the story is right in front of you. As they're shackled together, the Hazut priests are walking next to them with the Bible open. So they start the indoctrination once that boat landed on land outside of Africa. So at this time, I'm just about complete with the Black Jews, blacks, and the Holocaust. I have shared it with the person that I said I would share the book with. If you received it via email, please let me know. If not, I can send it to you via a DM. It will open up your eyes as to what our original religion was. It would explain why Buddhists, huge, tons, Buddhist statues were standing in Lebanon. You must remember that all the continents at one time were connected together until they built the Suez Canal. When they did that, that separated the continents. But I have many books on the original Jew, many books on the Moors, and many books on the rituals and the rites and why we are so drawn to African materials, African patterns, how the quilts were used to let runaway slaves know that the homes they were going to were those of the abolished, that had room to hide them, how the braiding of the hair was used as a map. Remember, Harriet Tubman had a very hard time seeing. So we were so ingenious that we decided to use quilts and the braiding of the hair as a map. Reclaim your greatness. Reclaim the minds that we were given. And when you meet an African, don't have a preconceived idea, just as Europeans here in America have a preconceived idea that all black people act alike. Anything that I do, anything that I invest in is done with either Muslims or is done with those who have migrated to America from Africa. From my financial advisor on down. But this is the time and the point where we're about to reconnect. Listen to the stories. Listen to how they were taught about slavery. I have a cousin that married a woman from Kenya. And when I asked her how she was taught about slavery, she was taught about slavery in the school system in Africa. And very little was true about slavery. Africans are very, very hard workers, very smart workers that we need to detox everything that has been passed down, and we need to rebuild into our kings and into our queens, and instill in our children independence, protection, that the youngest in the family stays with the parent until they transition, that the spirit continues to live on. The only thing you don't see is the flesh. And that's why a lot of our roots are held in New Orleans. When the body is taken to the cemetery, the first band plays. Once the body is interred, then the first band plays again. But the music they play is that of celebration. You're celebrating that life. You're not mourning that life, because that spirit is still alive and is still within you. So I'm taking this day as my son celebrates his 28th birthday with the one he loves. And I'm using this day to study, to share what I'm studying. And because I purchased the books on Google Play, I can share them via email or through IG. I'm not going to dox you, but I would need to know what your IG address is or what your email address is, and I have no problem with sharing the books that I have purchased. Love and light, peace and blessings. And I'm about to finish this movie and then go back in to Black Jews, which I have about 50 more pages to go, and then continue on with the story of the Holocaust, where black people are not mentioned to have suffered not only through slavery, but through the Holocaust. Shabbat, Salam, Aseh.